This can also be on the other side, where the male is the one playing Mr. Mom, staying home with the children, taking care of the house. And you, the female Gemini, feels resentful, feels like they have it made. You have to do everything. And this is the very same mentality of how some males might treat the housewives. Housewives, that sounds like such an antiquated phrase, doesn't it? Or term. But the thing is that people who are taking care of children are working. If they're taking care of the house, they are doing that. That's why people hire folks to clean houses or to raise children, to take care of children while parents are working, because it is work. And people do get paid for it. But if somebody's in the home and they're not, and they're like at the mercy of the other person who's working outside of the home, that can lead to tension in the home. And if you are a female Gemini and you don't feel like you really are mother material in the June Cleaver tradition, then that might you might be very resentful about this. And you have to be careful, because it could spill over even to the children. The queen can be the mother, so you have to make sure that you keep that resentment to yourself. And even with your spouse, maybe your spouse kind of strong-armed you into doing it because they are traditional. By the way, the Hierophant connects with Taurus, so if that means anything to you. I just thought when I said June Cleaver that if you're under the age of 40, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Leave it to Beaver. And I didn't watch the show when in its first run. I watched it as a kid in syndication, so just in case you're wondering. What's coming in is represented by the Seven of Wands. So this is a card of standing your ground. Geminis are big talkers, but sometimes I wonder if they really share their feelings, or if they talk about trivial things too much versus important matters. And so in relationships, it might be uncomfortable for you to talk about the things that are bothering you because you're not necessarily comfortable with sharing your emotions. You're more uncomfortable sharing your opinions or your take on things. Yeah, your opinions on things. But your emotions that are very vulnerable or even very unpleasant, that might not be your cup of tea. So again, if you are healing, if you feel like your marriage or committed relationship has dodged a bullet and that you're on the right track, you still may have work to do. You still may have to counter someone who is trying to get you to conform to what they want. So you need to tell that person in uncertain terms who you really are. Maybe it's partially your fault. Maybe you tried to be Susie Homemaker and you weren't being who you really were. Or if you're, I'm saying this specifically for women because this does, even in 2019, this does tend to come up as an issue. As a matter of fact, I've been noticing a lot of young women who probably are college educated and they are having even more than 2 children and being that stay-at-home mother, and it's almost like hip. I'm sure it's, within a certain demographic who can afford it first and foremost in this day and age. But I've, in my area, I've been noticing that. And it's not like they have nannies because they're not working outside the home. But somebody told me that a lot of these women have home businesses, so that makes sense. So that's something you can think about if you're not doing that, Gemini, because you really do need stimulation. And another thing too is I've never had children, but I would totally be the mom who would have one of those little huggy things, and I would just take my kid everywhere. You know what I mean? Anything that I was doing, take long walks and just have the child there, and not just be confined to the home. So you are yang, you are masculine, you tend to, like to roam. So roam with a child. Don't think that it's some kind of a prison sentence that you have to be inside the home. And speaking of home and decisions, the outcome is the Two of Wands. This could even be you deciding whether or not to relocate. And I'm assuming you'd be doing this with your partner. And excuse me, maybe there is something afoot where you're living is making you feel like you can't get out. So maybe you live in a place like where I live, where it's cold for a good portion of the year, or maybe 1/3 of the year. It's kind of like not temperate. Okay. Still go out. Don't ever think that you can't go out, even if it's 10 degrees out. Just bundle up. And but you might be on the horns of a dilemma. With the Two of Wands, there is this sense of, the idea of following your bliss, I think sometimes. So, for instance, if you are with an earth sign individual, that person, and the other earth signs besides Taurus are Virgo and Capricorn, and you have an affinity for Virgo. But even with Virgo, you may be having differences of what is your kind of take on life, or your philosophy, and you need to be on the same page. So you may still realize that even when you try to defend yourself, the other person isn't hearing you, and you'll have to make a decision about how you're going to proceed. Wands are about freedom and about individuality, and I think Geminis are capable of respecting other people's individuality, but sometimes people are very intolerant of yours. And I think that can be kind of painful for Gemini to find the right partner, because of your special needs in a relationship. So anyway, sorry for the Demi Moore type of voice. Maybe it's sexy, huh? But I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Good luck to you, Gemini. Take care. Bye.